Hello everyone. Welcome to today's story. James's secretary is confused and chaotic when Diep returns after her disappearance. Will James be able to discover that everything was caused by her? Trang had waited patiently, plotting in the shadows, ready to do whatever it took to claim what she believed she deserved. But now, seeing James holding Tu Diep, the rage that boiled within Trang exploded like an erupting volcano. Her eyes, once alight with innocent admiration, now blazed with pure hatred and resentment. "Why?" she shrieked, her voice a raw, broken echo of years of repressed pain. "I've waited 10 years for you, James. 10 years. Trang's fury reached the absolute limits of her sanity. Her mind raced, conjuring dark, sinister plans to separate James and Tu Diep forever. No matter the cost, no matter the consequences, she was willing to do anything. Her obsession had warped her, turning her into a dangerous woman capable of even plotting against Tu Diep's life. For Trang, love had twisted into a desperate possession, a fight to the death for a man who had never truly loved her. As James held Tu Diep tightly, shielding her from the storm of Trang's emotions, Trang slowly advanced, a cold, calculating smile twisting her lips. "Don't think this ends here," she whispered, her voice chilling. "If I can't have you, no one will." James stood firm, his eyes resolute. "Love is not an excuse to cause harm," he said steadily, though his voice was laced with the pain of seeing someone he once knew consumed by such darkness. That night, the battle had just begun. Trang resolved to unleash every resource at her disposal, manipulating those she believed could help her shatter the love uniting James and Tu Diep. False accusations, insidious rumors, and chilling threats began to spread, filling their world with tension and peril. Yet what Trang failed to comprehend was that her hatred and resentment only served to forge an unbreakable bond between James and Tu Diep. Each threat, each attempt to inflict harm, only made their love more resilient, more profoundly true. James and Tu Diep knew the fight would be grueling, but they were ready to face any storm together. In the heart of that dark night, as Trang plotted in the shadows, James vowed to protect Tu Diep with every ounce of his strength, because in his heart he knew that true love could not be bought, nor controlled, nor destroyed. Love is defended, it is cherished, and it is lived with courage. The following weeks became a dizzying whirlwind of tension and danger. Trang relentlessly pursued her efforts to dismantle the happiness James and Tu Diep had painstakingly begun to rebuild. In every shadow, she planted seeds of doubt and fear. Anonymous messages, fabricated evidence, manipulations designed to tear apart what seemed unbreakable. But what Trang underestimated was the unstoppable force of true love. One night, as exhaustion threatened to overwhelm James and Tu Diep, they received an anonymous call. It was an unexpected clue, A message only Tu Diep could truly understand. A hidden detail only she and James shared. A unique symbol etched onto a piece of jewelry he had given her years ago. That signal led them to the precise location of Trang. With hearts pounding in shared urgency, James and Tu Diep headed toward the place they knew was enemy territory. But the need to protect their love, their very lives, was stronger than any fear. The abandoned house, once a witness to their pain, was now set to become the stage for their final battle. Upon arrival, they found Trang waiting, her expression a chilling blend of despair and contained fury. She was no longer merely a woman wounded by rejection. She was someone teetering on the edge of an abyss, ready to drag everyone down with her. "This time I will win," she shrieked, her voice trembling. "If I can't have you, James, no one will." But James wasn't facing this threat alone. His love for Tu Diep had transformed into pure, unadulterated courage. "I won't let you destroy what we've built," he responded firmly. "This ends here and now." The confrontation transcended the physical. It was a clash of wills, of truths. James confronted Trang with every single one of her deceptions, every lie she had used to manipulate those around them. The truth burst forth like a lightning bolt, piercing through the darkness. And though Trang tried to justify herself with desperate tears and pleas, there was no room for compassion. Finally, faced with irrefutable evidence and the crushing weight of the pain she had caused, Trang was taken away for treatment, not as punishment, but as an opportunity to find the peace she had lost. James and Tu Diep, though scarred by their ordeal, emerged stronger and more united than ever. Tu Diep embraced James, sincere tears streaming down her face. She whispered, "As long as you came looking for me, there would always be hope. Always there would be life." And in that moment, in the profound calm that followed the storm, both understood that true love isn't merely about passion. It's about patience, courage, and forgiveness. Not for Trang, but for the space her darkness had briefly occupied in their lives. The path ahead wouldn't be easy. The wounds would take time to heal, and Trang's shadow would linger as a stark warning. But together, James and Tu Diep were ready to write a new chapter, one filled with trust and promises fulfilled. Because love, when it is truly found and fiercely defended, is invincible. The lingering shadows, the silence that followed Trang's departure from the abandoned house, weren't entirely peaceful. It was the heavy quiet of a storm that had passed, leaving behind a changed landscape. James held Tu Diep tightly, feeling the frailty of her body against his, the ragged breaths that still hitched in her throat, the tears that stained her cheeks and his own, a mixture of relief, pain, and an unspoken promise. "Are you okay?" James whispered, his voice still hoarse, tracing the gaunt lines of her face. Tu Diep nodded weakly, leaning into his embrace. "Now I am," she managed, her voice a mere wisp. "As long as you came looking for me, there would always be hope. Always there would be life." They remained there for what felt like an eternity, the reality of their reunion slowly sinking in. The police and an ambulance eventually arrived, their sirens a stark contrast to the earlier desolation. Tu Diep was carefully attended to, her physical wounds assessed, but it was the unseen scars that would take longer to heal. James never left her side, his hand a constant, reassuring presence. A new chapter, not without scars, was beginning. The days that followed were a blur of medical checks, police statements, and the overwhelming task of simply being together again. Tu Diep returned to their home, a place that now felt both comforting and suddenly different, imbued with the memory of the terror she had endured. James, ever the protective partner, transformed their space into a sanctuary, ensuring every need was met, every fear addressed. He cooked her favorite meals, read to her, and simply held her when the nightmares came. Yet even with Trang gone, the shadow of her obsession lingered. Whispers followed them, news reports sensationalized their ordeal, and for a time, a sense of unease permeated their lives. James's company, though supportive, became a target for media speculation. He faced relentless questions about Trang, about the why behind her actions, and whether he truly understood the depths of her madness. It was an exhausting period, but it only solidified his resolve to protect Tu Diep and their newfound peace. One evening, as Tu Diep sat by the window, gazing out at the familiar garden, she spoke, her voice stronger than before. "She wanted to destroy us," Tu Diep said. "She almost did." James sat beside her, taking her hand. "She failed," he stated firmly, "because our love is stronger than her hatred, and because we fought for it." He knew the truth of her words. Trang's actions had left an indelible mark, not just on Tu Diep, but on their shared future. They would carry the memory of that fear, that desperation, but they would also carry the profound knowledge of their resilience. They had faced the abyss and pulled each other back. Now in a specialized facility, Trang was undergoing treatment. Reports were vague, but it was understood that her break from reality was profound, born from years of unaddressed obsession. James felt a complex mix of emotions. Relief that she was no longer a direct threat, but also a lingering sadness for the person she had become, so consumed by a destructive love. He knew that true healing for all of them would be a long journey, but for James and Tu Diep, each day was a step forward. They rediscovered the simple joys, laughter echoing through their home, quiet evenings spent in each other's arms, the comforting routine of their lives. Tu Diep began to regain her strength, her spark returning, though occasional moments of deep introspection revealed the trauma still residing within. James was her anchor, his unwavering presence a constant source of comfort and courage. Their love, once threatened, now burned brighter, forged in the crucible of adversity. They learned to communicate even more deeply, to anticipate each other's needs, and to cherish every moment. The old house in the woods, once a symbol of terror, had inadvertently become the crucible where their love proved its invincibility. It taught them that true love isn't just about passion, but about patience, courage, and the profound power of forgiveness. Not for Trang, but for the space her darkness had briefly occupied in their lives. The path ahead would not be without its challenges, its lingering shadows. But together, James and Tu Diep were ready to write a new, stronger chapter. One filled with trust, unwavering commitment, and the quiet, triumphant joy of promises fulfilled. Because true love, when it is truly found and fiercely defended, is invincible.